Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another episode of my podcast. Today's podcast is called the Pomodoro Technique, and as usual, I will begin this podcast with a quote. Focus on your goals, not your fear. Focus like a laser beam on your goals. And that's a quote by Roy T. Bennett. In our lives, we have all, at one point or another, had to battle against procrastination. Procrastination is the enemy of all. Even the most focused and well-educated or most driven person, sometimes we fall into these bouts of procrastination. Like you just feel like you don't want to do something, or you feel like you have enough time, or you could put it off to later. Especially in school, I being the perfect example, was the person that felt like I had plenty of time. If I had something due on Monday and school was out on Friday, I was like, oh, I got plenty of time to write the paper. I could just do it, tomorrow. Then tomorrow came, I wouldn't do it. And the next thing I know, I found myself on Sunday night, cramming to get this paper done. But procrastination doesn't serve us. Even though it looks like it works on the surface, or it feels like you're being productive, it really doesn't serve us. Because now that I sit back and think about it, using those papers for examples, if I just would have sat back and took a slow, methodical approach to writing the papers, I would have been able to write the paper, read over it, correct it better grammatically, maybe add some information, take some out because it might have been too wordy. I could have produced a better product at the end of the process. But because I wanted to procrastinate, I cheated myself. I didn't put my best work forward, and that's what we end up doing to ourselves ultimately when we procrastinate, is we cheat ourselves, and we come up short in the area that we're trying to procrastinate in, whether that's at work or at home or whatever aspect of our life. Procrastination doesn't serve us, no matter how it looks. We have discussed in previous episodes the power of focusing on your goals and how important it is for overall success. You have to be focused. You have to be driven. You have to be dialed into what is important. And ultimately, we have these missions that we place on our lives, these things that we deem are important, that we want to accomplish during the time that we've been given to be on this earth. And the way that we do that is we set goals, milestones, checkpoints along the way to help us determine if we're approaching our goals in a successful manner or in a idealistic way. We're not just spinning our tires and, doing a burnout in life, essentially. We're actually getting traction towards our goals. While doing some personal development, I stumbled across a method for creating an environment of focus called the Pomodoro Technique. Now, this is something that, since I've created this podcast and since I have been, doing my research and doing my personal development, I've been trying to implement this technique in my life more and more and more. And it really has been awesome. It really does what it says it's going to do. And it really fosters an environment for focus. Once you're in that bubble and you're grinding and diverting all your attention to one thing and not being distracted by any other thing, left or right, texts, people, whatever, it just fosters that environment for success. And I was able to actually get a lot done. So the Pomodoro Technique is a time management system developed by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s that encourages people to work with the time they have rather than against it. So again, going back to the story in the beginning, if I have a paper that's due on Monday, then it would be in my best interest to start writing that paper Saturday, however long it may take. Dedicate just my full effort to writing that paper Saturday, and it won't take all day Saturday, so then I'll have the rest of Saturday to do what I want, the rest of Sunday to do what I want, and then there'll be no pressure, no stress, no anxiety built up along that process, because I'll already have it done Saturday. Or I could do it in pieces for a couple of hours on Saturday, do it for a couple of hours on Sunday, and then on Monday it's no sweat. Instead of building up this anxiety, this tension, this pressure, this procrastination, I could just take a slow, methodical approach to accomplishing the task. And it goes with everything, or everything and anything, you know what I'm saying? So you could apply it to a work setting. Maybe you're trying to completed tasks you haven't been able to complete because your life is real hectic. So you got to make time for you. You got to carve out time for yourself. So you can do this when you're completing a hobby or you're doing something for you. Just work on it for 25 minutes and then take a break, and just keep doing that for as long as the duration as you need to. So to go further into that, now that we're discussing about how it works, the way it works is you take a timer and you break your workday down into 25-minute chunks separated by 5-minute breaks. These intervals of 25 to 5 are referred to as Pomodoros. And after 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break of 15 to 20 minutes. So you set, and if you go into the Google Play or the Apple Store, they have the Pomodoro timers, the Pomodoro productivity timers. So what you could do is you could take the timer, you click it on for 25 minutes, and then you work for that 25 minutes. You don't look to the left, you don't to the right, you don't get up, you don't try not to use the bathroom. You try to do as little as possible to stray away from the work that you're trying to accomplish. You want to be as focused, as present, and as grounded on what you're doing at that present moment in time. And then once that 5 minutes hits, get up, stretch, walk around, do whatever you need to do but the task you're trying to accomplish for whatever set time you have determined. And then once your 5 minutes is up, don't lollygag around, don't slowly get back to your work, jump right back in it. So the way that I did it, and I did it as early as yesterday when I was trying to accomplish some tasks, I took some music, put some music on, not music with words, that way I could focus on what I was doing completely and not have my mind being somewhere else or listening more to the music than I am to my own thoughts and being present. I put my music in, I set my timer, and I just started grinding. And then when my timer went off, I took my music out, pressed pause, sat here, stretched, thought a little bit. And then once my timer, my 5 minutes went off, I was right back at it. I didn't take a break. I didn't longer than I needed to. I didn't lollygag and kind of meander back into doing my work. Like, I went straight back into my work. And I actually got a lot done. I think I did 3 or 4 Pomodoros. So it was very successful. It was very successful, and I wish I would have knew about this technique earlier in my life. And I feel like I would have got a lot more done in school. Would have been a lot less stressful. It's important to remember that this is a productivity technique to serve you. If you feel like taking a break, if you don't feel like taking a break, keep going. So there were times when I'm just now learning how to use this technique and how to make it work for me. That 25-5 split really works for me for what I was doing at that point in time, but it's a productivity tool that's meant for you to be more productive. So if you get to a point in time where you feel like you don't want to stop or you can keep going, then so be it. If your attention span is shorter and you need to do a shorter duration of work followed by a longer break, kind of experiment with it, because everybody's not the same. Everybody doesn't learn the same. Everybody's a little bit different in their development. Some people have that discipline where they can go for like an hour or so just focusing, grinding on their work. Some people can only give 30 minutes, and it's not a bad thing. It just is. So you just got to work with the tools that you got, and then over time you'll be able to develop and rearrange your mind and dictate what you're going to do. You're going to be able to control yourself. At first, with anything, in self-development, it's going to be hard because you have a way of doing things and you've been doing things for X amount of years and you're trying to implement a new system. So with time, you'll get better at it. At time, you'll find out the split that works for you, but you just have to make the tool work for you instead of being so strict and rigid. Just because this is the traditional way it's done, 25-5 split, doesn't necessarily mean that's the way that you have to use it. Again, you have to make the tool work for you. So the technique factors the human attention span. A simple search in Google will show common estimates of the attention span of a healthy teenager or adult ranges from about 5 to 6 hours. However, there's data to support that the attention spans of humans are shrinking. 5 to 6 hours, I feel, is a long time. Um, I knew that when I was in school, I wasn't grinding for 5 to 6 hours on work. If it was a video game or if it was fun or laughing, joking or whatever, then I could devote, copious amounts of time to that task. But when it came to schoolwork, I think I would say my attention span when I was in school and stuff like that was probably about 45 minutes to an hour. And then I started to get burnt out. I started to look for outlets. I started wanting to take a break. Unless I was in that procrastination mode and I knew that I had to get something done by a deadline that was coming up quickly. And then I would kind of, bolt myself to that seat and get what I needed to accomplish done. But again, everybody is different. This isn't strictly for everybody. There are people whose attention spans, again, like I stated earlier, can be 30 minutes long. There's people whose attention spans can be greater. Like it comes with practice. So once you start doing this method and other techniques to get your attention span where you want it, you'll be better off. You'll do better. But it just comes with practice. You just got to practice. Again, you are not allowed to do anything during those 25 minutes. No phone, no TV, no Facebook, no TikTok, only work. That's the only thing that you're going to be allowed to do during those 25 minutes. So what I did, I put my phone on airplane mode. It's just 25 minutes. If something bad happens, I know somebody's going to leave me a voicemail, somebody's going to send me a message, and then I'll be able to get back on track after those 25 minutes. But while I'm immersed in that task for those 25 minutes, that's all that matters. I'm being present. I am grounded. Even like I said, it could even work for like family time, for hobbies, for working out, for anything. Just be present and be focused for that 25 minutes, and then you could take a break for 5 minutes, do whatever you need to do, check your cell phone, which is what I did just to make sure I didn't miss somebody calling me or getting an important message, and then get back after it. And then you could do as many sessions as you want, as many Pomodoros as you want. I did 4. It didn't seem like it was too much. It didn't seem like it was too bothersome, too tedious. But like I said earlier, it's meant to create an area of focus based on the human attention span, and it creates that sense of urgency. When you have 25 minutes to sit down and do something rather than thinking you have 24 hours to accomplish the task, you build up a sense of urgency. So instead of just sitting there taking my time, doing it for 5 minutes, walking away, coming back, maybe giving myself another 10 minutes, walking away, coming back, give myself another 5 minutes, go play with the kids, watch a couple episodes of Rick and Morty, and then throughout the day, I really didn't accomplish anything, or I may divert like 30 minutes to something and then go away and then never come back and not accomplish all I could have accomplished if I would have just sat down and done like 2 Pomodoros maybe. You don't have to always do 4, just maybe 2 Pomodoros. I, again, being a practitioner of this method, did accomplish a lot more than I have here recently, because my daughter recently started school, so that's just throwing a wrench in my whole time schedule, and I got to get things together. I gotta piece it back together, because now there's a big responsibility thrown in there, so I can't just do what I've done. I gotta rearrange and refocus my sights. But it's all good. I'm learning. It's part of life. It's part of the journey, and it's working. It's just taking time. Just like with anything, it takes time. And like I said, this technique can be applied to anything, but the 2 areas that I saw this technique applied to most, that the creator had designed it for and others had spoke on it in reference to, were in education and the workplace. That's typical. That's the 2 places that we're trying to be most productive. Most of the time, or sometimes, we let our home life kind of go by the wayside. But this is also a tool that we could use in our home life. Time with family, a hobby, meditating, being with yourself, being by yourself, just being grounded and being present. It's a productivity tool, but at the same time, I can see applications for it to be used in a way of keeping you grounded and keeping you present. It could be like a meditation tool or a mindfulness tool, something like that. There I see like tons of applications for this thing, even though those are the two primary applications: the educational settings and the work setting. You could use this tool to work for you. The concept follows the same logic as saying, how do you complete a journey of 1,000 miles, one step at a time? That's how you do it. That's how you conquer any task, no matter how big or how small it is. If you just take that task and break it into bite-sized pieces, anything is able to be accomplished. When I went to boot camp, it was 13 weeks. And when you were on the outside looking in, before we actually got there, it was like, man, 13 weeks of this, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if I could be able to make it. But when I talked to my recruiters, they gave me some good advice that said, hey, look, just go from meal to meal. Don't worry about day by day. Don't worry about week by week. Just go from meal to meal. Or training evolution to training evolution, step by step. So what I did was I wake up and I'd be like, let me just make it to breakfast. You make it to breakfast, let me just make it to lunch. You make it to lunch, let me just make it to dinner. You make it to dinner, day one is over. Wake up again, same thing over and over again. And the weeks flew by, and even when I was doing the training evolutions, like long runs or ruck marches with the pack on my back, when I got tired or when it started getting to that mental wall point, I would just be like one step in front of another, one step in front of another, one step in front of another. The miles didn't matter, or the end didn't matter, because it was so far away. And if I focused on that, I would get down on myself and beat myself up like, man, I have so far to go. Nah, just focus on one step in front of the other. That's how you accomplish a goal. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one simple step, just the right step in the right direction. And life is the journey. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So if we can, again, just focus on taking one step at a time, no matter if you experience failure or success, because again, it's all about our perspective and how we look at things. We can still foster a winning mindset. We can still foster that momentum we need and that traction behind us, so that we can move closer to our goals. And little things like the Pomodoro Technique and our mindset and reading and all these things that we talk about throughout the podcast are little things that can add up to create big results and have big differences in our lives and help us to get closer to the person that we're trying to be, closer to the goal that we're trying to achieve, closer to the us that we need to be in order to serve our purpose on this earth while we have time to be here.